Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. Um, okay, I've lost my complete spiel. I hope you've had a fantastic week. I hope your tanks are doing well. I hope your seahorses are great. Holly's cheersing me. I've switched back to Pinot Noir, so sipping on the red. I forgot. Oh no, I do have my pretty glass with me again. First foremost, no big spiel this week, but I do want to apologize. Ray just scolded me, gave me a couple of punches for always being late. I really do apologize for that, you guys. I'm working on it. I am not going to promise it'll never happen again, but I am really, truly sorry. I know that, if you're waiting for us to start and then we're late, that's not cool. So I do apologize, and I'm going to do my very best not to let it happen again. And don't worry, Ray yelled at me real good before we started. But anyhow, if you are on Instagram, it's gonna look funny. You're gonna see half of our faces because just of the way the layout goes. If you head on over to YouTube, search Seahorse Whisperer, and then you can watch the video, or you can just listen on YouTube. That's fine too. We enjoy having you either way. But I can't see your questions on Instagram, so YouTube's your best bet. We just put it out to Instagram to let more people listen in. Okay, I've got Cheryl, Ray, and Holly with me today, and it's open chat. I've been too stressed to even come up with anything, so cheers to that. How are you guys? Let's start there. How are you, Ray? You were here last week. Anything new?
Thing 2's gonna make it. He's doing well.
Yay!
Doing really well.
So last you stopped the antibiotics, right? And
yes.
And what was did you start the debride again?
I have. I'm not using it every day right now. I'm using it intermittently to kind of clean up when his skin starts to get, a little fuzzy, peeling off. So right now it's every other day. I'm doing topical treatments once a day, every other day. And I might start doing them daily again because he seems to be handling it better as he gets stronger. He's not laying on the floor anymore afterwards. After he gets treated, he goes about his business again. So he's getting better. His color's lightening up. He's eating. He's starting to poop normally. His tail. I can't believe this. It's got to be the molecular hydrogen. He's rebuilding his cells, I think.
Wow.
So he's getting his tail back. Believe it or not.
That was Dan's suggestion, right?
I'm amazed. Yeah.
And only one other person's tried this, right? So you'll be like the second person.
I don't know who all has tried it. I imagine probably other people have, because he's mentioned it a few times, but I don't know details of that. So have to ask Dan.
And he'll be back probably in 2 weeks for part 3, but Ask Seahorse part 3, and and I'll let him know on the side how it's working for you, because that's amazing. But so are you doing? Remind me again. Are you doing 2 tablets a day?
2 tablets every morning. Yeah. What I do is I do his water change. He's in a 10-gallon hospital. I change out 5 gallons of water every day and put 2 molecular hydrogen tablets in. And that's it. That's all the treatment he's getting, other than the topical treatment, occasionally. And once a week, I do a complete water change out the whole tank. So it's mostly, I think, fresh, clean water and the molecular hydrogen. I did add 2 quartz crystals the other day on 2/22/22 because it was Tuesday for thing 2. So he's got a couple crystals in there too that'll hopefully give him some extra healing energy. I did some research, and there's only a few crystals that are actually safe in a saltwater tank. It's quartz, amethyst, and citrine.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had to do some research, both with crystal people, people that do crystals, and also aquarium forums.
Right.
There's a little about it here and there. And so they got sterilized in boiling water. And these are the ones, they're like cut points. They're not straight out of the ground, so they don't have stuff sticking to them or anything. They're very clean in the first place, but it's because of their hardness and their
Right.
chemical make that they're safe. A lot of other kinds of minerals you might try or rocks and things can dissolve
Right.
in the water, so gotta be careful.
Yeah, I mean, that's really smart that you were careful because I've had problems even with just some of the freshwater ornaments type things, like the fake plants and stuff, where I had
Mm-hmm.
one that was it was so cute too. It looked like an anemone, and the seahorses seemed to like it, but it started like when I pulled it out to clean it, it had only been in
Mm-hmm.
there a week, and I pulled it out to clean it, and it was falling apart. So it
Yeah.
was, dissolving, like you said.
Yeah,
And a lot of
yeah.
those, a lot of those have wires in them also.
Right.
And when they
Mm-hmm.
rust, they can really create a problem. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things, though, this might be helping King too.
King too.
Yeah, Cheryl
He may
christened
be he may be
him.
seeing a reflection of a seahorse or a partial reflection of a seahorse in the quartz.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
so yeah, well, I don't think you can see a reflection in it. Honestly, I'm
Oh.
not able to. And
Okay.
he's just getting used to them. As of today, he kind of checked them out. He was a little leery of them yesterday when I put them in, but he checked them out today. He hasn't tried to wrap around either one of them yet, but he'll sit next to them and he's not worried about them anymore. But it'll be interesting because they were making, when the sun comes through the tank a certain time of day, they can make rainbows and they light up inside. You can see the striations and things inside.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is it's from Brazil. It's called a Lemurian seed crystal. And there's a lot of legend to that, but
I was gonna ask you really quickly, because I know you're into this stuff. You make the cool fragrances and all the cool homeopathic things. So what is the crystal? Is it supposed to just promote healing? Is that what it does?
quartz
Quartz.
does in general, and Lemurian quartz, there's legends that it's used by aliens, kind of
Oh,
like for energy.
So you're
So
treating your seahorse with aliens.
yeah.
Maybe
So
that's the secret.
there's a few places where it's found. Brazil is one, but we have it here actually kind of locally, Mount Shasta. And there's
mm.
legends associated with Mount Shasta about like people see spacecraft and just
Oh, cool.
it's just kind of cool, weird stuff. But
Yeah.
it's a thing, and I found one in a shop, so I'm like, why not?
Yep. Hey,
It could be good for him.
and you did your research and made sure it was safe. So I don't see. I mean, I love when people come up with new things to put in a seahorse tank. The shower curtain rings, I know I bring them up all the time, but my seahorses
Yeah.
like them more than anything else in the tank. I'm seriously considering getting rid of the rock because I tried to overcompensate for filtration because I didn't have a sump on the all-in-one.
Yeah.
But I do have the K1 already spinning, and the rock now has. We talked last week. It's got that weird algae on it, and I cleaned it the next day on Thursday of last week, and it's already back again. And I'm just like,
I'm right there with you. I'm starting to do that in the display tank. I'm accumulating my artificial coral reef from online, and then I'm just gradually. I pulled some, but I'm going to pull more, some at a time and replace it with artificial until it's gone. Because
exactly.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I mean,
The blowout
seriously,
tank is so much easier to keep clean and take care of.
and I'm curious to anybody who's watching right now, let me know in the comments, do you put rock in your seahorse tank? And that's kind of what I put in the comments. I want to talk about food in a minute, so don't let me forget. But yeah, I mean, like when I started the 40 all-in-one, It was to prove you could keep seahorses in a smaller tank. The seahorses are fine. They don't care about the algae. It's just I don't like it. And they turned the color of the rock, because that's all that was in the tank. When I first set it up, I was planning on doing macros again. And then I realized that it's kind of hard to get the pretty ones that I used to have nowadays. And I just kind of, I got lazy. Let's be real. I got lazy. I didn't get it done. So now it's just rock and like the shower curtain rings. It's kind of a boring tank. But my point was, I'm hoping they will someday have babies. They still haven't, but they're healthy. They're happy. They don't care about the algae. But I didn't get a great light because I knew I wasn't going to do coral. I was just going to do macros and maybe gorgonians. So I tried to make sure it was full spectrum. But now that light, I believe, aside from water quality, as Ray will smack me again and tell me, sorry, I'm rambling, but I think the light and not doing enough water changes has caused the algae. And as we've talked with all of you guys before, once you get nuisance algae in a tank, the only way I've ever dealt with that is either adding a sump, and doing a scrubber or something else to get the algae into the sump, or a crap ton of maintenance. And I'm lazy. I don't want to do a crap ton of maintenance. So, and Seahorse Corner said she moved all the rock to the sump. Oh, if it's big enough. My big tank, I have a small sump because of how, I guess I could put it up, how my stand is built. And I ran into that problem too. On my 65, I got sick of dealing with it and I added the sump. But at the sump, it's like if I took a picture, you guys would be like, ugh, because the sump sits out in front of the tank because the stand couldn't hold a sump. It's not that kind of stand. And I had to do the overflow blocks, big pain in the butt. But it works. It's just not very pretty, but I just don't show you guys that in the pictures, right?
The one thing with the rock, I run bare bottom tanks, and the only rock that I have in the tank at all is like one tank has two pieces. One holds the airline in place and also holds up one of the hitches, or the artificial hitches, and the other one is set up in such a way that it holds up the other two artificial hitches, and they're not big pieces. And the thing is, it's very easy to just pull them out and clean them. In fact, I just finished building. I took some smaller rocks and drilled holes in them and cut them out a little bit. And now I can actually have little places where I can stick in different hitches because I put a screw in on the bottom on the artificial hitches. And I can just plop them in there, and I'm set. And they're easy to make. Just drill a hole.
Yeah.
And
I get it. That's
the other thing, though, that I noticed, because I'd previously bleached all this stuff, soaked it in fresh water, treated it with Sea Chem Safe, the whole 9 yards. But I decided that I wanted to see what happened, so I put some of it in 3% hydrogen peroxide. That stuff bubbled like crazy.
Oh.
So just an FYI, because even treating with bleach is not getting rid of some of the internal stuff that's attached to this rock. No,
absolutely. And that's, this rock could have, my rock that I'm having the problems with could have, phosphates and, leaching out. And I don't know. I'm not against rock. I think rock makes a pretty tank. I just know that in the tanks that I've had that the seahorses kept their color or got even brighter, it was tanks that had artificial decorations of the color that I wanted the seahorses to be.
Mm-hmm.
And every tank I've had rock in, like when I had all the babies, when I had a 90-gallon full of, 30 babies or 30 adolescents, they were different colors. Like some were white, some were yellow, some were brown, whatever. They had their own colors that they just wanted to be. But most, like 75%, would be the color of the rock that they hung on the most. They'd be that rock color, which is great. It's pretty. But the other thing I wanted to ask, I think Ray wants to say something too, but the thing that I'm worried about if I take all the rock out, because at this point, the algae's growing on the rock, right? And I have started upping my water change. I don't want to add a sump to this tank. I know that's the answer, but I don't want to because I'm trying to prove you can do it with, in a small tank. But the algae I noticed, I do it like Holly said last week. I take a magic eraser and I literally lift the rocks, scrub under them. I scrub the floor. I have bare bottom. I scrub the sides. I scrub everything, every water change. But I noticed that the I noticed that the algae is now starting to barely, but a little bit grow on the bottom of the tank. Have you guys ever dealt with that? Like where, and Ray, I'm trying to look at, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth, but
I can't say, well, because in the tank where I have rock, I have sand. It's not bare bottom, but it does grow on the walls also of the tank,
okay.
parts of it.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, it doesn't grow in the front.
Hmm.
It doesn't grow in the front where it's see-through. The rest of my tank is not see-through, only the front.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but I've wondered about that. What I do get is the Coraline algae.
Right.
Or
And I
Coraline
haven't
algae.
gotten that yet. Hang on.
Uh,
Let me let Ray back, because I'm curious, Ray, for your thoughts. You have, oh, he left again. Hang on. Here he comes.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. You're back. I wanted to ask you too,
Yeah, I
Ray.
still haven't got that side panel, so I've got to sign completely off, I guess.
Are you talking about like the chat you can't see?
Yeah, I can't see the chat because this looks like your embed link is invalid. Visit the chat settings and grab a new one. So I don't know how to do that.
Well, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm just put,
mine gives me a message when that happens that something happened and I have to come back in, but I'm not using the chat, so it works for me.
well, and I'll try to stay on top of showing the questions at the bottom when somebody asks a question. And I could put the chat overlay in, or you could come back. But Ray, before you go, I wanted to ask you. I know that you're really big on, hey, if you're getting nuisance algae, your maintenance is not work. You know, you're not doing enough. You need better equipment, or you need more water changes. But my question
Or
to you
you need
was,
to cut back on your food.
right, and I want to talk about food too in a second. But if the algae is now growing on the bottom of the glass, so it's hitting the bottom, I'm really leaning towards thinking it's this damn light. I'm really thinking about taking it off.
The
Well, remember too,
light is only making the algae grow if it's getting enough food to grow.
Right, that's true. I got you.
You
So
take
you
the light
think,
away, and it lessens the ability of the algae to grow. But the fact is, the nutrient is still there.
the
If
organics are still
you
there.
correct the nutrient situation and then put the light on, I can't say you won't have any, because there's always going to be some nutrient in the tank. You can't get rid of
Right.
all of it.
Right.
But the fact is, you can control it by controlling that amount of nutrient that's left in the tank.
Well, I sorry.
You can do it in all kinds of ways. And for me, I do it, especially now, I just do it with water changes, and I don't have significant light over the tanks anymore since the barbs are all gone now.
Right.
But you can do it with equipment. You can do it like I do, water changes and physical cleaning by doing it myself. Combination of it, things like the real oversized skimmer help. You can use carbon. There's probably a lot more things that you can use as well that I've never bothered getting into. Never used in any of my reef tanks or anything, so I just haven't used them with seahorses. But it's just a basic concept.
Right. No, I know. If you're not
Like
going
if
to
you
add a
don't feed the
sump.
seahorses, they're not going to grow.
Well, actually, now I'm gonna I can't think of the word. I'm gonna transition into food, because I do want to say that you're probably onto something. You probably just nailed it, because I'm looking at lighting, I'm looking at water changes and stuff. But I think it is food, and I'll tell you in a sec. But I did want to say before I forget that when you were talking about that, that's one thing I am going to do is I'm going to add more aquachar, especially if I remove the rock, because the aquachar made a huge difference when I first added it, and I haven't added any more. I need to change it out. I haven't. All this stuff that you don't have to change out for 3 months or 6 months or whatever, I forget. I'm terrible
I
at
never
it.
changed mine either.
Well, the
Well, and you
aquachar
don't.
is like carbon, isn't it? It'll remove dissolved organics.
It is, but it's also, it doesn't matter if you don't remove aquachar. You can leave it in and just maybe rinse it in a water change during a water
Active
change.
biofilter.
Right. It works as a biofilter also. So it's almost like rock, but it has that extra oomph like carbon. So it's kind of like in the middle, and it does both. It's really cool. If you haven't checked out Aquachar, you need to. They actually sponsor this channel. I need to talk about them more. I really apologize. And if you want Aquachar, when we're done, I'll put the code to get 15% off, and the link to their website. And we need to get Brian back in here. But anyways, on to food. So I was gonna ask about food, like what you guys use. I know we've talked about Hikari and PE and everything before, but I think Ray is right. I think the reason I'm having this algae problem is because I have to drive like an hour to get Hikari or PE mysis. I don't trust shipping it. It's never come in frozen. It's always unfrozen. And so when I run out and I'm like, oh gosh, it's just been a really bad month for me. And so what I did is I went to PetSmart and I just bought their mysis shrimp, and it's just like omega-1 or something. And it is terrible. It is terrible. When I defrost it or when I rinse it and I put it in the tank, half of it is just little bits that go everywhere. So that's probably my problem, isn't it, right? Mm-hmm. The little bits I'm not getting them and they're adding up.
But the thing is, you can use any of that food as long as you're going to get rid of whatever's left in the tank, providing a nutrient. I primarily use Hikari, but when I have used the Omega, it was because my supplier couldn't get the Hikari at the time. And yeah, I thought it was a bit messier. Maybe I didn't feel that it was as messy as you seem to be finding, but then again, the mysis in various supplies at different times of the year comes in different quality. But still, the fact is that you can change your protocols to handle the situation if you know that when you put it in the water there and you're seeing it's a lot cloudier or a lot more small pieces that aren't going to get eaten, then it's a sign that either you stop using that, or if you have to use it, then you have to do something else to compensate for it.
No, yeah, and I know you're right. I seriously, I'm curious what everybody else.
I'm right. This is my own personal theory.
No, you're right. You are right. It is compensation.
That's
I think
true.
you are right.
I totally believe. Well, I started feeding Andy in a little shell on the floor, because he was having trouble getting to the other feeding stations. But the problem with that is because if I'm not right there to catch it, I put my pump on the feed selection, so it's off for 10 minutes. But if I get busy and I don't catch it when it comes back on,
it's everywhere.
It'll blow it everywhere. And that's another problem why I don't like those rocks, is because it'll get stuck in where I can't get it. It's going to go, and not, I have a cleanup crew, but they're not going to get it all. So it's getting stuck in the rocks, and I'm siphoning out probably a good a day out of that tank now, because I have to siphon all the rocks in addition to where I was siphoning before. After
Ray, what's your suggestion?
This is why I don't like a lot of rock and sand and stuff in a tank, because seahorses are messy. And with that bare bottom,
you have a wave maker.
If you have a wave maker,
your tail will swish it.
Guys, wanted to talk. Don't talk over each other. Try not to. Sorry. Go ahead.
A wave maker. You can turn that on. It'll blow all the unneeded food and detritus into the one corner. And I clean my tanks daily. At the end of every day, in the evenings, before I go to bed, I go in there, I siphon out. Everything's blown into one corner. It takes me probably 2 minutes.
That's amazing, Cheryl, but you've told us that before, and I've tried to do that. You are a miracle worker.
Tank is like that, but it's because it doesn't have rock. It doesn't have sand. I can see everything. And it goes to place and I can suck it up. So that one's not hard. And that's why I want to get the other one kind of more like that. But what I am going to do, because I figured out, I found something that I used at Christmas time. There's these plug-ins you can get that have a remote control. So you can turn your Christmas lights on and off when you want. So I have 3 of them that I got at Christmas time in a packet Home Depot. I'm going to put one in on my aquarium power strip for the display tank, and I'm going to plug the pump into it. So
Yeah.
instead of the feed function, I have something that I can turn on and off when
They
I
actually,
want.
they, just to let you know that, I mean, that's probably a much cheaper option, but I actually bought, they have actual power strips that are like that. They're timer based,
Mhm.
or you can
I've
shut them on and
seen
off.
that. I
Yeah.
had a similar one on the grow out tank, and it
Mhm.
was hell to program that thing. Let me
True,
tell
true. That's true.
you.
The
Not
reason
as
I
bad
got,
as my lights on the display tank or the chiller,
right.
but it was a challenge.
Well, the reason that I got it is because on the, it's actually, I'm still using it on the 65 because
Mhm,
I have the reverse light cycle going on. And so I don't have to mess with it.
mhm.
When the light
Yeah.
goes off at night, the lights on the sump come on. But Ray, you made a good point, and I don't think anybody heard it. We were all talking. You said maybe
Well,
we're feeding too much.
for Holly,
Yeah.
I want to make the point that if there's so much food in there blown around after the pumps come back on, you got too
Mhm.
much food in there.
But they're
So
still eating. See, the
well,
problem
hey,
is
but
they're
that,
not done
Holly,
at that.
but the thing is, if you can't set the time for longer, just put the food in there that's for that time period, and you can feed more
Again.
often, which is better for them, because the more, if you allow them just to keep on eating, they're pushing that food right through their digestive tract because it can't be digested properly.
Right.
And when it comes out, it's not processed as much as normal, so you're even putting more nutrient out into the water.
But
So
they
don't,
don't eat like our seahorses do. He can only eat like a couple pieces in a minute or
well,
so. I mean,
I've
he's
had
probably
7
got
different species,
celiac
and
issues.
I've had various rates of eating and that, and I still find that other than early on, like 18 years ago, when I didn't know what I know now, I found that it was much better doing more times a day and shorter times. And that also meant I ended up with less problems in the tank in the long run, although I didn't
Mhm,
understand it at the time when I
mhm,
started making these changes. Um, I wasn't aware of things like dissolved organics causing the bacterial things, but the fact was that when I did make changes like that and not as much food going in, um, it was compensating for the fact that I wasn't doing sufficient husbandry on the tank or didn't have
right,
sufficient equipment to compensate for that food that I was putting into it. And
mhm,
um, and I can't remember where I was talking to somebody at some point. Maybe it was Dan many
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and we were talking about the fact that pushing the food through doesn't do much good. Um, if the seahorses have enough time to process it and get the maximum amount out of
mhm.
what is in their digestive tract, then they're going to end up being healthier. If they're
Mhm,
healthier, they have a better immune system and they're better
mhm.
Less
overall.
problems. Let
If
me
you
ask.
start
Oh,
feeding
Yeah,
them so that they can keep on pushing that food through, they're just not getting the nutrient out of it. And sure,
mhm.
if you do it
but
long
see, a
enough,
lot
you're
of
going to get
times
more.
they'll take longer to even start eating sometimes. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, but
what?
no, wait. With that, Holly, I was going to actually say the problem with Ray's method, and I want to ask a question to Ray about this, but the problem with it is a lot of people have strenuous, long work days. But the question is, Ray, would it be okay to say feed before you go to work, just enough for them to in the
Feed when
10-minute
you get
period?
up and then feed again before you go to work. Because even half an hour, 3/4 of an
That's what I was
hour
going
in
to ask.
between is
Yeah.
going to help
Or
because it's
even
giving time
wait.
for that to be digested.
Right. So, but would it be okay, like if you fed 5 times at night, like every hour? Is
Well, if you
that
want
still
to do
the
5 times, and if you can, go ahead. I think
okay?
4 times should be sufficient. If you're giving
Sufficient.
them enough to eat in about 12, 15 minutes at the most, and if
Mm-hmm.
you're doing that 4 times a day, in my experience, it's worked out very well
And
and through
go ahead.
different species.
But wait, Holly said, what do you do if, and Holly, my answer to you, and I hate to answer it because it pisses me off when people say this to me, but what people have always told me is, like when I was raising Fry and I was having trouble weaning them, and Dan, Cheryl, Ray, everybody said, tough love. If they don't eat this time, when you come back the next time, they're going to eat. You know what I mean? They're going to be hungry and ready.
Yeah.
So, but what is Cheryl and Dan? I'm sorry, Cheryl and Ray. What do you do if the seahorses don't come for the food? It's morning. You're going to be at work all day.
Well, they don't
I
eat
don't have that problem anymore.
I don't think I've ever had a seahorse that didn't come for the food. They may have been a little late getting there, but eventually they're going to learn that when the pumps go off, like mine, my timer, because of the type that I have, it's just a conventional timer, you know, where they got these little things that you pull up and push on to put it in the time slot where you want it to come on and then come off and so on. I use those, and so I have 3 turn offs around the dial. When I'm going to do the feeding, I turn that timer off, and so all the stuff that's providing motion in there, with the exception of one power head that I leave on to get some motion, it all stops. And then I bring I turn that wheel, the timer wheel, up till I hit the stop part. So the on part is up against the stop part. So whatever time it takes for that wheel to move and get on there, usually in my case, it's a little over half an hour, and at the worst case, about 3/4 of an hour. So I have more time to play with there. If I could get a timer where I could do it less time, I would. Right. But the fact that Holly was talking about using the remote on-off thing and then doing it manually, that will help somewhat as long as you don't forget.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
Isn't it bad? And I know Holly was trying to ask a question, so
well,
I
and I
apologize,
just
Holly.
started turning the pumps off. I didn't used to turn the pumps off when I feed because I didn't have to, because where the dishes are, the food would stay put. The reason I had to start doing that was because I had to start feeding Dandy on the ground because he couldn't get to the dishes. You know, he was having a hard time. He wouldn't come to a lot of the meals. Now he's getting plumper. He's happier. He's healthier. And he knows to come when he hears the pump go off. He'll come to his dish. But it's created new problems. For some reason, the other seahorses like his dish the best now.
Right.
And he doesn't get there right away. It takes him a while to get there because he's slow.
Right. I was going to say, wait. We need to be really clear to anybody who's watching this. Holly has a couple special needs seahorses, okay? And they're beautiful, wonderful seahorses, but this wouldn't apply to everyone's, because what I was going to ask for all of you is, in Holly's case, she has special circumstances and she needs to care for, each seahorse. But in most cases, you don't want food to sit for more than 15 minutes, right? I mean, it starts gathering bacteria.
As soon as it hits the tank, it's going to start developing bacteria.
Right.
You definitely don't want it to sit in there. And it's like I tell people, you can always add a little bit more, but taking a bunch out is a lot more of a pain. And when I feed them, I'll go in, turn on the lights, turn off most of the pumps, not all of them, leave the air line going because it does keep the food moving around. And this is one of the things I do daily, is that every feeding I spend time sitting watching them because I want to see if they're having trouble sneaking food. I want to see what their respiratory rate is like. I want to see how much food they're consuming.
Right.
I want to. I look at them, watch them other times too, but that to me is a very important aspect of spotting something. It's like I knew I had ciliates before they probably knew they had ciliates, and I treated the tank. But it was because I could see them, one, rubbing the operculum against the artificial corals, which told me that they were having some problems in the gill structure. And they were spitting out little bitty pieces. They were getting most of it in, but not all of it. And I haven't seen that now in weeks. But
I was gonna say, remember quite a while ago, my seahorses were having weird. They weren't scratching their gills, but they were scratching like their sides, their bodies. And I ended up taking all of your advices, and I watched them closely, but I did some major water changes, and they stopped. So apparently, I'm trying to prove you can keep seahorses in a small tank, but I'm facing every failure that anybody's ever faced. But I'm overcoming them. We'll figure it out. But no, what was I going to ask you? Dang it! Holly. Did you want to say something? Because I was going to say something else about food.
Oh no! My grow out tank is just way easier. I can see everything, but I siphon every time I feed the seahorses. Every time I feed them, and and because I've got four tanks to take care of right now too, so it's not like a few minutes every time. It's 2 hours every morning and another 2 in the afternoon general for me to take care of all the livestock in my house. So yeah,
once you get multiple tanks, it becomes way. I remember it becomes way. I'm down to 2 now, and it's not as hard. But
I'm trying to make fry over here right now.
Yay! Tell them good luck. Turn on some romantic music. But what I was going to say is, I'm with Ray and Cheryl about them coming right up. Man, the second that I turn off the return, because I have to turn the whole return off just to feed them.
Yeah, when I turn off the flow, they know.
Where is it? Where is it? Catching it. I can't even. They're like jumping out of the tank at my hand.
Breakfast, they all know, because it's as soon as we get up and the lights come on. But other than that, my schedule is not consistent, so theirs isn't either, really.
Right. No, that makes sense. And all seahorses are different. I really am going to take what you guys have all said into consideration. I'm going to do some major water changes, and I'm going to go do the drive to get the better food, because you know how like pea mysis is bigger, Hikari mysis is smaller, but they look like shrimp. This crap, it's like bits and pieces. I don't know if I'm rinsing too hard or if it's just crap food, but the biggest, you can't see the eyes on the shrimp. It's just like a bunch of little white shit. Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
It's also winter harvest right now too, because I'm having that with the Hikari a little bit.
Really?
Lately.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, happens in the winter. That's smaller.
Well, what I do when I go to buy frozen food, I want them to put every package, 16-ounce flat pack of Hikari. I want to take a look at every one of them, and I'll pick out the ones I want.
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm looking for the nice, bigger, white ones. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, and like I said, this isn't Hikari. This is like a mega one.
Well, the thing is, Hikari, I don't like the winter catch on Hikari because they're typically much smaller. And
that's what I'm running into right now too.
Yeah,
I have had a mega that was okay though.
Really?
Yeah.
So maybe I just got a bad package.
Well, I think
something.
It's like any of the brands. I think part of it is the time of the year it's harvested, and you can't do much about that. But the Omega brand, I do find it's too often that I had those problems with it. So I haven't had to get it for a few years now. My supplier gets it in pretty good for me now, and I give him warning. I order the stuff, and when it comes in, it doesn't even get in his freezer. He tells me when it's coming. I'm
smart.
There.
That's smart. And I wish we could find a way to ship frozen foods better to where they weren't thawed. I know that that they're getting better. I know that some people have had a lot of success with it. It's just every time I've ordered frozen food online, it comes and it's not cold anymore. It's not frozen. And we don't want that. But I was just, wait, one more thing, Cheryl, I'll let you talk. But what I was going to say is with this stuff, I'm going through what Holly was talking about, where I'm not overfeeding. It's just that there's so many little pieces that I'm literally, and it's a all-in-one with no sump. And so when I suction all those little pieces out that the seahorses won't eat, hell, I got to put it in a gallon of water or 2 gallons of water again. It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Mine get a lot of water changes by default. besides their regular water change.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
need
Cheryl, what were you
a
gonna
good
say?
quick
Sorry.
filter system in there that'll suck it up. As long
What
as
do
you
you
can
mean?
keep it in suspension with a power head or wave maker, and then have a quick filter that will filter the stuff that's in the water, so you don't have to do so much. Just make sure
What do you
that
mean by quick filter? What do you mean?
have I got
Oh,
one here?
sorry.
I think I
Fire
was
down.
talking to you about, Kelly, that I saw in my friend's freshwater tank canister filter that goes in her tank. She had a
Oh,
thing
okay.
that went down like almost all the way to the bottom, the intake. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I think maybe
I
something like that.
actually have one of those where it's an internal filter and it has the spray bar, right? And it does suck things from the tank up in it. But like as soon as I turn the return on, it's going to be going back in the back and everywhere else. So, I mean, it wouldn't work quick enough.
My
You know what I
quick
mean?
filters attach onto my power heads.
Oh,
They're
huh.
they're Hagen
Hey,
802
Tim.
power heads. Well, I don't think they call them 802 anymore, but it's their 400 gallon an hour movement power head. And the quick filters are they sell as well to fasten on the bottom here. I don't use their own filters in them because their filters are expensive. I use what do you call them? In the kitchen you can buy these colored scrub pads. They're
Okay.
like
Yeah, like Cabrillo pad
it's
or
not
something.
felt. No, it's not. No, it's
Yeah, it's the plastic, the
no,
scrubber thingy.
not plastic. No, it's
Is
what
it made out
can
of
I say?
sponge?
No, it's not sponge either. It's
We always
Oh.
put Ray on the spot. Sorry.
yeah.
Let me go in my
Well, when
kitchen. I
talk
have all the
cognitive
things.
impairment, it's hard to come up with words. But
Mhm.
these things are thin pads. You get them yellow, red, blue.
Yeah.
Comes all in the package. They're flat. They're about I don't know, 4 or 5
Yeah, I use
inches
those. I know
wide
what
and
you're
about 3.5
talking about.
inches, or no,
The
4
little
to
scrub
5 inches
pads.
long
More
and
like
about
a
3 inches
scrubber,
wide.
yeah. And some
Anyway, I take
sponges
2 of
have the
those
top
and I
layer
put
is
it
thin,
around
the
the
bottom
center.
layer is sponge.
I put 2 of these
Yeah.
around the center piece of this this quick filter, and I can sit and use my high pressure hose in the downstairs sink and sit there, jet it, and wash this stuff all out of it, stick it back on, so I'm not buying filters for this thing all the time. And it's something I can take off, and I can do it. I could do it every day, and it wouldn't take much time.
So, but what I'm asking is, so it's attached to your power head. I get all of that. So do you run that before you turn the tank back on? Or I'm just trying to figure, because like the second I turn the tank on, the food goes in the.
They run after the feeding. When the timer comes back on, those come back on. They run all the time except for when the food is
Yeah,
going.
that's
Because I
what I
don't want
do.
the food to get sucked up there while they're feeding.
Right. But I'm asking, do the power heads with this intake pre-filter, do they go back on? Like in my case, I know if you have a sump, it's different. But in my case, with the all-in 140, the second that I turn the tank back on at all, that everything it goes down the 2 holes to the back of the tank, and then it's in the socks, it's in the K1, it's in the meat, it's in the back, and it's making a mess. So would I then? Are you basically saying feed?
I depend
Turn
on
the
the
pump
stock
on with the pre-filter and then turn the tank on 10 minutes later?
No,
Okay.
I don't do that. The sock gets whatever goes down. And I find that when you have the power head set up right, there's only a little bit going into the overflow.
Okay.
A lot of it's still circulating around the tank. Well, I shouldn't say a lot because I don't put enough in now so that there is a lot. But the power heads will take it out. I'm going to go downstairs and get a power head and quick filter up here just so you can know what it's
Cool. Sounds good.
Awesome.
I'm about to, and here in
That
a second, I'm
sounds
going to go
cool.
take, I know, and I'm going to go take a picture of this food because I'm not at all knocking. In fact, I'm going to stop mentioning the brand, but I just couldn't believe how bad it was. I can't believe the seahorses are eating it. Like it's that
Well, if they're
It doesn't
hungry.
look like shrimp. Right.
Well, and it's
They
funny
know
you
it's
brought
food.
that up, though, because I've been noticing my Hikaris kind of like that, too. And since you brought it up, I remember this happened last year, and Cheryl told me it's because of winter heart.
Okay,
And
but
the
I'm going to go
first
take,
time
wait.
it happened, my seahorses looked at that food like, Mom,
Right.
what is
Come
this
on, man.
at?
Okay, Holly, can you and Cheryl talk for a couple minutes so we don't have dead air? I just want to go take a picture. All right, I'll be right back, you guys. I'm going to go take a picture because I understand what you're saying about smaller shrimp for harvest, but it doesn't even look like shrimp. I mean, it doesn't even. I'll be right back.
I've seen the same thing with Hikari in the winter months too. This is why I don't like to buy winter food that was harvested in the winter months. And if I
so wait, what do you suggest? Are you
because you're not supposed to store it that long either,
right?
Well, the difference is I have a chest freezer that gets down well below 0.
Well, see, I do too. So maybe that's a way to do it is stock up in the late summer, maybe.
I order larger quantities going in basically at the end of summer to get me through the coldest spells. And the thing is, you can keep it longer if you've got a sub-zero chest type freezer.
Yeah, because I practically get frostbite every time I handle their food. Seriously. So I keep my freezers pretty cold. So that might be a good way to do it, I'm thinking. Because I don't go tons of it. Because I buy usually a single flat pack at a time. And well, before I had so many seahorses, that would last me a good hour. But now
I don't have that many seahorses, but my amphipods make up for them.
I have a funny story about amphipods. I still have amphipods in my hospital tank because they live under that coral. It's hollow underneath.
Yeah.
So they live in that artificial coral. The 6 of them that I put in there originally are still there. And the other day I got worried because I saw Thing 2 jump. And then he did like a twitch. And I'm like, oh, are you having a seizure? What's going on? Yeah. And he saw an amphipod was walking on the floor and it scared him. He jumped.
Well, I do it a little different with the amphipods because I have a couple of nursery tubs that I use for poultry. And their hiding places are filter socks, which makes it easy.
How do you get out?
Oh, I don't have to. I just have a little mice shrimp on top of one corner of the filter sock that's out of the water. And I wait for them to all come scurrying out. And I just take a net and go, and I'm done. They never see it coming. But it's one of those things where I don't worry too much about algae. I don't have a lot of it. I've got one tank that's got a little bit of green hair algae in it. But it's one of those on the side where the light is bright, the other side is on that particular tank is dark. And I didn't have any problems until I started leaving the light on longer for the seahorses.
See, that's what I've got going on, but I have to take a whole day off pretty much to reprogram that light. It's so hard. Yeah, I have a book to program it. The problem with it is that you have to push all the buttons in the right order.
Yeah.
At the right time. And if you screw up on one, you got to start all over again. And
sounds like programming an Inkbird.
Yeah.
Oh, it's way worse than that. I can program an Inkbird like that now, but my light, oh no. And the thing is, I'll have them programmed perfect, but because we get so many power outages here, when we have a power outage, it wipes out the programming. So I think they went back to the original full strength program.
Oh.
And that's why one of the things I want to get rid of the live rock, coral stuff, all that, and go to all artificial, because then I can just use normal freshwater
Light,
style
right.
daylight and not have to worry about it. Although
Yeah.
they do, I'll let them keep their moonlight. The seahorses love the moon. I have to say it.
Right.
That's,
No, and I want to
I
say,
can't say what I just thought of when you were talking about mooning.
okay, all right, Cheryl, back up. Anyway, I was gonna say Ray wants to show us something, and then I want to show you guys my pictures. But I was gonna say, anybody who watches this, if you have a natural tank with rock and coral and whatever, a natural seahorse tank that is, post the pictures in Seahorse Sources group and tag us because I think they're beautiful. My favorite tank I've ever kept was the one that was covered in macros. It's just, once you've been doing this for a while, it gets, if you want an easy, if you're lazy, not late, I'm not calling you lazy, Holly. I'm calling me lazy, but I'm lazy. Or if you're trying to breed like Cheryl, it's just easy to have a more basic tank with artificial stuff. But if you've got a beautiful tank with, natural stuff and it looks like the ocean, that's amazing. And we want to see it because I've loved my tanks that I kept that way. And there are ways to keep them. It's just a little more work. So we're now talking about making things easier because Kelly's lazy. Ray, what were you going to show us?
Well, first of all, you don't know what lazy is. Lazy is when I spend 2 hours to get out of an hour's work. Spend 2 hours trying, coming up with something that'll cut back. Anyway, this is a Hagen powerhead.
Right.
Okay.
There's a basket this is a hydroponic basket that I've glued onto the bottom plate here.
Right.
The bottom plate. Yeah, I can't work.
Okay.
I'm going
We see it.
backwards with the camera. Okay, that's the way it is on the powerhead. The powerhead that turns around.
Wait, raise it up, Ray. Raise it up a little bit. Okay.
There we go.
Right there.
And
It's hard to
there's
aim.
levers on the side here. One that changes the flow. One changes the direction. So that you can change the direction so it'll take it in this way and push it out this way.
Oh.
In any case, they sell a quick filter.
Ah.
Oh,
The quick filter
never seen one.
attaches on like that. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now the inside of the quick filter.
You put your media, spongy stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
This is what I used to use. You get. This is what the quick filter comes with, but it also comes with the filter material that they sell you from Hagen, which is very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I started off and probably for up until about 5 years ago, since mid 90s, I was using these fluval filters until they went out of stock. They don't stock them anymore because the product that they were from, they quit selling. So now I take and I put those pads that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I use 2 of them. They're just the right length for this. And so I wrap it around and put the other one around the other side and it overlaps. I shove it inside. Well, in this case here, I'll put this one back in. And you just have to remember to put the right end in.
That's cool.
Yeah. I like
I
that.
have never seen one of those. And it's
Take that
called
off.
Wait, hang on. Let him finish.
Take it to the sink, pull it out, and use my hose end connection. Put it on
Yeah,
the jet.
rinse it off.
Sit there and jet the stuff off. Put it back
You can-
together.
That's awesome.
That's
You can
how I
even
use
use
my
like pillow
filter
stuff.
pads in the freshwater tank.
Pardon?
That's how I do my filters in the freshwater tank. The filter pads, I
Yeah.
pressure wash them out and put them back in. Give them like more than one use.
These power heads are older in sin.
I have one of those.
I haven't bought
I haven't
any
used
in
it in
this,
years.
what do you call it? This century. I haven't bought any since back in the 1990s.
90s. Yeah, as I say, that's when mine's
still
from, I
have them.
bet.
I had about 30 of them. I'm down to about 18 now. Because in the last few years, some of them started giving up the ghost, but most of them is just impeller, and I can buy new impellers for them, stick them in. But
Well, that's
Yeah.
amazing considering the power heads these days. I mean, it's maybe a year or two, and you got to get a new one.
Most of my
It makes
circulation
sense.
pumps that I own are
well, you
over
can still
at
buy
least
these, but they're
15
just
years
not
old.
called 802s. Oh, it's got the same.
It's
So
Hagen?
Ray, the part that's on the bottom, what did you call it?
It's a quick filter from Hagen.
Quick filter. See, I've never heard of that. I've never
Yeah.
seen one.
Well, it
I have to
only
look for
it,
so they
Hagen's the
still
only
make
one that
them
sells
though,
it,
man.
and it only fits their power heads.
I'm looking it up so I can try to show a picture. Hang on. Well, you just showed us what it is, but I want to show what
Yeah,
it's.
Yeah, but
it's
to see
still
if it's
available.
available.
If you see the Hagen page, they've got
Okay, I
various
got it.
sizes of power heads. They got small ones, big ones, but I bought all the big ones.
All right.
That's
so
why
here's,
they're on anymore.
so you can still buy them, and they're only like
Oh, look at
$15.
AquaClear has them. Yeah, because I have AquaClear, and that's I have like hang on back stuff that I haven't hooked up, but that might be a good idea too. You know, like
Well,
Heather
it looks
does
like
that. She has
it
a
looks
bunch
like
of hang on back and a sump because of that reason, collecting all the
right. And I believe that, I mean, if you look at this, as I scroll down a little bit, it says Hagen AquaClear. So they must have just changed their name. And real quick, before we move forward, I wanted to show two. Hang on, I got to stop sharing and reshare. Hang on, guys, I'm getting there. And then I want to show you my food real quick. But so then you can still buy the Hagen Powerhead 2, apparently. And I think it's just AquaClear now.
Yeah, but there's different sizes of 70 and
Yeah.
I forget.
I have a few sizes of those. Yeah, I might want
70
to.
might be the biggest size. I can't remember, but 400 gallons an hour is this size. I've got a couple of theirs that they discontinued that are 900 gallons. And why they discontinued them, I don't know, because to me, it was the greatest one that they made.
Well, and Chimp said this century, 22 years is a long time. Ray must take good care of it. But really, seriously, Chimp, think about it. They used to make things to last.
Yes.
They don't anymore.
We
now they
have-
just want to make money.
We
And
have
Chip, I bought
pumps in
most
my
of them
house
in
from the
93 and
80s.
94.
That's crazy.
We have
Oh,
air pumps from my husband's high school years back in the 1980s.
Wow.
I have the old Marineland pumps.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Wow.
I still have it. They go back over 15 years.
Mhm.
And most of them have only lost a couple of them. Then I mean, they're still going. They were made in Italy, and it even says on them lifetime warranty.
You can't find that anymore. Okay, real quick,
You can
guys.
see it.
Before I forget, I want to show you this just so you can see. Excuse the bottom of the tank. It's water change day tomorrow. But, oh, you can't see it very well, can you? Okay, my pictures suck. All right, hang on. Let me see. Do you see those little that's the food. What the hell is that?
That's what I'm dealing with too, Kelly. And yeah, some of
What
it
is that?
It's tiny pieces that are in the food. I'm glad you brought that up because I've been noticing that more. And I didn't put the 2 and 2 together that it's winter food time, winter harvest.
But I mean, I hear you, but okay. Wait, Holly, look at this picture right here. I totally believe you and Cheryl talking about winter harvest. So like this, I don't know if you can see my arrow, but the piece that looks like it might be a shrimp, that's a tiny shrimp, right? But I'm talking about all these little half pieces everywhere.
Oh yeah. I'm dealing with
that's
that
not
too.
little shrimp. That's broken up crap.
And part of it, is they spit it out.
No, this is no. This is literally
like they'll get a big mouthful, and they're like, "I want that
what I'm
big
saying
one.
is,
I don't want this little stuff," and they'll spit it out and go for the big one over there.
Right, but wait. What I'm trying to say is that's freshly put into the tank. It's not something they spit out. It's coming out like that.
Yeah,
I
mine
mean,
too. I'm going through the same thing right now.
You'll typically see a lot more of that kind of problem where you get little bits and pieces when you buy the blister packs rather than the flat packs. I've noticed that.
It is a blister pack. Go ahead.
I will not buy blister packs at all for that reason.
No.
Because
I'm
they
getting mine
come
out of
in
my
pieces.
Hikari flat pack right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the
And
American blisters I had to buy because I couldn't get my flat packs.
Yeah. But
and
I mean,
the
I
thing
just
is, too, I don't get to look at them really. A lot of time when I buy mine at one local fish store is the only place that has it. And their supply is so short that sometimes I'm getting the only one that they have.
The store that I go to when I buy from a store, first of all, I've known the manager there for many, many years. And he knows how picky I am, first of all. But he doesn't bother him because we work together a lot and do a lot of stuff. And it's one of those things where normally what I do is I call him the day that he gets the shipment in and say, well, is it here yet? And he says, yes. I said, and I'll tell him I'm on my way.
Yeah. Well, so wait. So I'm not trying to press this. I'll drop the topic in a minute. I'm sorry, guys, if you have other stuff you want to talk about. But it's just bugging the crap out of me because I am going to go drive and get PE. But so basically, the answers we've come up with is one, have a really chest freezer that can actually keep the food truly frozen and stock up, or just go through it during the winter months. And or if you can't get the best food and have to take an off brand. But my question is, couldn't you find, like, I'm trying to think of maybe a certain micron net or sieve, however you say it, that would take out the little pieces. But what size would you use? Because this is causing me to have to. Well, wait. Let me finish. This is causing me to literally have to siphon out all these little bits, and I'm using a turkey baster, which probably isn't the best method. But I end up having to replace 2 gallons of water daily because of this.
You're not going to be able to probably buy a sieve that's big enough to.
Yeah, I use a pretty big one, and I still get a lot of little scraps.
You could probably buy the micron mesh and make one yourself. And I mean, even 670, 710 micron is going to be too small, probably. You're going to need something a little bigger to get the bits out. But that would be one alternative.
I mean, because I'm just curious what other people do. I see Seahorse Corner saying she likes the flat packs better. But I mean, it's just, this is driving me nuts.
Like I said, I'm getting them in my flat packs, and I use pretty good sized sieves because I use the brine shrimp direct sieves, and I use like the largest size for feeding the tank. I'm still getting small stuff in it.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those that would work. Yeah.
Well, I need to find the right micron because it's driving me nuts. It's too much work. It's probably the problem, as Ray said, that I'm kind of feeding too much because they won't eat all those bits. And if I'm not getting them all up.
You know what? I'm thinking that too now that you brought it up, because I hadn't thought of that. And that's part of why, I mean, it kind of coincided, right? Because I started feeding Dandy in that little dish. And I didn't have a problem with food going everywhere until I started doing that. So I didn't really notice because I was just able to suck it all up. And now what's happening is because he's clumsy, he goes to the dish, he flutters his fins and food goes everywhere, or somebody else comes along, or the pump comes on, or so it goes everywhere. And it's on the ground. So where it's going is the sand where I can't see it. And then at least in the rocks and the algae, I can see it to siphon it out. But not everybody's eating it because they can't find it. Look,
but I mean, not just that, but look at that. It doesn't eat
it anyway. They'll eat, what mine do is they'll take a big mouthful. And if it's little like that, they'll spit it out like yuck. And then they'll try to get a big piece. Yeah.
Right. But even, sorry.
I hadn't even thought of that.
But what I was saying is, looking at this picture, even the pieces that are supposedly big, I mean, you don't see eyes, They don't look like shrimp. It's terrible.
No,
It's just awful.
no,
Anyways.
but
I would
I
never
will
buy that
say
again. Quite frankly,
I'm seeing some of that in my Hikari. Not as bad, but I am getting a lot of tiny pieces right now in my Hikari, and I buy the flat packs. So I think it's winter harvest is part of it.
I'm going to digress on the subject of a chest freezer.
Okay.
One, on two different areas. One, a chest freezer, because they will get down well below zero, and they don't do the automatic thaw that refrigerator freezers do, means you can store it much longer and keep it in reasonable condition than you could in a refrigerator. That's one important thing to think about. So I typically, when I'm getting into the winter months and I'm seeing this real small Hikari, I've already stocked up in my chest freezer. And I'm going to digress again to another format at the moment, because I recently had a HVAC failure, and it was in the 80s outside when that happened. But I have also saved every single ice pack that has ever come into this house for frozen food and anything else.
Yeah.
And they also live in the chest freezer.
Nice.
And I was literally filled up 1 gallon plastic bags full of all these basically ice packs. And I was able to keep my tanks below 74 until, of course, the next day, or actually the day after, we're now in the 30s. So,
Yeah. Sounds like our one.
Well, I'm curious too. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl. I thought you were.
I was just gonna say, my point is, saving some of this stuff like ice packs. Most people are gonna just throw them away.
Right.
These ice packs saved my seahorses this week.
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to
You
ask though
can do
too, has anyone found a good resource for online frozen foods? I know that I think it was Live Aquaria that I finally got one that was pretty frozen, not completely, but frozen enough to where I didn't feel like it was bad. But every other time I've tried to order food online, it comes in thawed and no good.
I check the weather first of all before I place an order.
Okay.
And I wait until I know it's going to be cold. Of course, I'm in Texas, so we get a lot warmer than other areas. So I'm very particular about when I order a shipment. I have ordered from several different sources, including Live Aquaria. I've only had one order that came in even partially thawed.
Really? Okay. Well, maybe I need to try again. Maybe it's just
Mine's
been my
never
luck.
coming into my dealer partially thawed, but then again, it gets shipped in dry ice too.
Right. No, and Ray, what I'm talking about is having it shipped to me, because my big issue is I have to drive to another town, another city, because the only thing in my area is PetSmart, and they don't carry any of the good brands. No, I'm gonna have to get one.
PetSmart, where I live, that their freezer is out on the sales floor.
Wait, Ray, what were you saying?
I bought an 18 cubic foot one in 1967 and it's still going.
Yeah.
And so I have it cools down to 24, 25 or minus 24, 25 centigrade, which is probably about minus 5 Fahrenheit without doing a calculation here. So that's a good temperature to keep it at. And I found I don't have a problem keeping it at that temperature for over a 6-month period.
No, I hear you, and I know Dan's talked about that too, and it's something I do plan to invest in, so that when I do find a quality food like Hikari in the not winter months, I can stock up. But I'm talking about literally just getting it here, period. Like, you go to PetSmart and half the food's brown, half of it's, because they're not getting it in right. And I need to quit mentioning. Wait. I know, Holly, you want to talk. I know you do, but I know that, I'm not trying to mention any store names anymore because I shouldn't be doing that. I apologize. But it's just that getting it to them or getting it to me is the problem. Storing it, I hear you. Get a chest, get something good that actually works, better than just a freezer. But I can't get it here. Holly, go ahead. Sorry.
just say the problem with the chain stores in my area, all of them, is that the freezer is on the sales floor. And it's just like when you go to the corner store and buy your sodas or beer or whatever, people are in and out of them all day. Whereas at my local fish store where I buy my hikari, they have a deep freeze behind the counter. So
Exactly.
nobody's in it. You have to ask for it and then they'll get it out for you. Whereas, they have the PE mysis at my local chain stores, but I won't buy that because of where it is, because of the way they sell it. So
Yep. No, that is a great point, and you're right, because the store that is in my town that I already mentioned, but I'm not going to mention again, they not only have it on the store floor as you're describing, but they don't have any of the brands we're talking about. They only, and I know, Ray, you said you've gotten good Omega 1. Stop mentioning brands, Kelly. Sorry, but they don't have any hikari or PE. So I drive all this way to get the good food, and I need to. It's just I can't always do it. This month's been tough, so I just can't believe the food's this bad in the winter. So I'm going to have to get a chest.
Well, mine's always an hour away because of where I live. Yeah, right. Remember this town, we had a pet store in our town, but our town burned down 3 years ago now, going on 4, and hasn't been rebuilt. A lot of stuff's gone. So my local fish store is 45 minutes, an hour away, but so are most of the appointments I run for work. Yeah. So you're
used to it.
Always about an hour away because I live in a rural area. So I just plan like, okay, on Fridays, I need to be in Chico so I can buy the Seahorse food, because incidentally, another thing is if I don't buy it that day, they're out. That's the day it comes. And if you don't buy it that day, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what you want to do basically is be waiting there when the shipment arrives.
Yeah.
And bring an ice chest with ice packs.
I'm just really glad we're having this conversation, because I know most of the people that watch this channel already have seahorses, but I'm curious what you guys do if you get a bad pack of food, or if you don't have these problems, because we harp on feeding as the most important thing. You have to feed the right way, you have to feed the right foods. It's so important for their immune systems. And then when I'm dealing with this, I'm like, so I'm curious what you guys face and how you guys deal with it, because this is a really important topic. So I'm glad we're talking about it.
When I got Thing 2 back, the lady that brought him back to me, she couldn't find frozen mysis shrimp. She didn't know about that one pet store I go to. So she had been feeding him brine shrimp because that was all she could find. And that's another thing that probably, caused him to have issues. But
Cheryl,
Cheryl,
a funny thing, my seahorses from Ocean Rider will not eat frozen brine shrimp. They'll eat live brine shrimp, but they will not. I tried once when I run out of food too much. I'm not very prepared. I need to get a chest and start stocking up. But another time that I ran out of food, they will not touch it. Frozen brine shrimp.
I've had that happen with many of my species.
Yeah.
Would they eat live though, Ray?
Yep.
Just not the frozen.
Well, see, I've always had live because I grow them myself.
Right.
And so I've always had that. I'm not doing it any longer because I've only got the ads left. Right. But before that, I used to supply 2 stores here in London with them. Well, it was, trying to get them from the States was too expensive, especially after 9/11.
Yeah.
The cost of shipping after then. And then also after 9/11, you can't get anything cross overnight anymore. It used to be you could order something and overnight it. And it's impossible to overnight now from the States.
Well, speaking of which though, that's, sorry, go ahead, Ray. Sorry.
No, if I do overnight now, it takes at least a week.
Well, I was going to say too, though, and we've talked about this too before, but the prices, I mean, and I'm trying to buy a $10 pack of food, Hikari mysis, and it's $20 in shipping for overnight. I'm like, what the hell? I need answers, people. Tell me what you're doing. How are you solving this problem? Do you live in an area where you can't get the food? And what do you do about it? Have you found good places to order?
I'll say I do buy ahead because I'm usually working on one flat pack of mysis and I have another one full sitting wrapped in, they wrap it in newspaper for me because I live far, and I leave it in the newspaper in the freezer until I'm ready to open it and use it. But I try to keep 2 on hand. And another thing she does for me, she started doing this sometimes when they get one in, the bag, because it's brittle, flat, long skin, it will have a crack. It'll be broken, like it broke open, but it's good. Just call me and give it to me for half price.
Nice. But I did want to say Cheryl's point about because listen, basically this whole show today has been about don't be like Kelly. Okay. Don't make sure you order ahead. And the other thing that I always forget to do is Cheryl's suggestion. When I drive that hour to get the good food for my seahorses, every single time without fail, I always forget to take a chest with, ice packs or whatever. And then I'm like, oh shit. And I literally have to run down to the gas station and get ice. And for an hour's drive, it doesn't thaw?
No. Have them wrap it in newspaper and stick it. You know how at the grocery store you can get those bags for your frozen food?
The insulated bags.
Like insulated bag. Bring an insulated bag with you. Wrap it in brown paper bag or newspaper at the store.
And it stays frozen?
Oh, yeah. Mine's
And if you buy enough pack to last you for, say, 3 months or 4 months, first of all, if more packs will keep the cold longer. And also, it means you're going to have to make fewer trips and you won't be asking about what can I do to solve my problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ray. No, I'm just kidding. But I was going to say, no, this is all good advice. I hope anybody watching is taking it. I'm going to take it. And the other thing, though, just to be clear, if anybody's just tuned in, if you're going to stock up on food, you have to have a freezer. Dan's told us before. Do you know the exact temperature it has to be? Yeah, it has to. You can't just put it in a regular. You can't keep food for 5 months in a regular freezer.
I feel like I'm getting frostbite. I want to wear gloves. It's so frozen. It hurts.
20 centigrade.
If anybody has, I know we can still access articles from Fused Jaw from Tammy Rice.
She has it on there. Yeah.
She has a couple of articles specifically for frozen food and frozen mysis shrimp, complete with video, well, not with videos, with pictures and the whole 9 yards. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage anyone that hasn't seen them to take a look at it because she's done a very good job of illustrating the difference between mysis that's been previously thawed and then refrozen and the problems associated with that.
She actually gave me permission to.
Generator is always good, both for your tanks and to keep your stuff frozen.
Oh, what is?
Backup generator. If you have power out or whatever and your freezers or whatever in danger of you can plug them in.
And I was just going to say that Tammy actually, I'm friends with Tammy, and I was at MBI with her. It was amazing. So much fun. You should always go to MBI. Anyways, she gave me permission to reshare. And so I've got actually like pictures and copies of those articles. I just got to get them up. Somebody bug me and I'll get it up.
Yeah. I believe some of her stuff, I'm trying to remember how I pull it up because I've got direct access to pull up her stuff.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where that can also make a big difference in the quality. There's differences in quality depending on the time of year. And I personally, I usually wait until I get something like a special 15% off for live aquaria
Right.
or something
Well,
like
and I mean, but that's the
What's
other thing.
a
I'm
good
glad.
time to stock
I'm
up?
glad. I'm really glad, Cheryl, that you said that Live Aquaria has shipped you good frozen food, because I just had so many bad experiences. I'm going to try again, but I'd be afraid to order a bunch because of, I mean, it's stupid to order one because the shipping's so much,
Yeah.
but to order a bunch and then it all be bad would suck. What were you going to say, Holly?
I
Or go
haven't.
ahead,
I was
Cheryl.
just going to say, so what's the month of the year do you think is the best time to stock up before the winter catch?
You know something? With it being 80 degrees 2 days ago and below 30 tonight, I have no idea.
I'm thinking where it might be like fall, because it's only right about now. I'd say January, February is when I start noticing that, because it must be.
It's in the middle
like
of winter.
find a little bit.
Yeah, it's basically when they're harvested in some of the coldest parts of the winter. And the thing is,
Well, maybe as late as October, November is probably okay. I'm thinking from.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Even if it's already very cold, because they have not yet gone through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking because it's
Ray
just
Francis said hi.
It's funny Kelly mentioned that, because I hadn't thought of that, but I was noticing that and it didn't register why.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now I kind of know.
Yeah. The other thing that we do around here is, since I'm with the Marine Aquarius Association in South Texas, we do group orders.
Oh yeah.
And
you live in where a lot of people do aquariums. You're lucky.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, we'll do group orders, and it's like they'll give you it's the same flat rate shipping, regardless of how much you order. And not only that, the more you order, the better the probability of everything staying frozen solid, because it's got a higher water volume, or ice volume. Plus, of course, they pack it in dry ice. And then what we do is we all plan ahead of time. We're going to meet at so-and-so's house at this time, and we'll pass out the orders.
And distribute this stuff.
Yeah.
I was telling Heather that because she was looking for fry tubs, and the shipping is so high unless you order several.
And you know what happened?
And what I did was I contacted a place that does koi in my area, a koi farm, and asked them if they have them. And she said, no, she says, but I can order them. And, I have a few other people that need them, so we can go in on an order and get free shipping.
Yeah. Did you get your tubs?
Get creative.
I have one. I only have room for one. So I've got one. And yeah, it's not set up. It's in the place where it goes, where it fits, but it's not plumbed or ready. But neither are the seahorses. They still don't know what they're doing. They're fooling around over here, but they're not that serious, apparently.
Yeah. Well, Heather went to order some from Pentair, which is where I got my last from. And they told her that, again, that they were out of stock. They didn't know when they were going to get them back. Well, she just messaged me that she found two that she's got coming in from Koi Pond or somebody. Anyway.
Yeah.
But the darn, they charged her a huge sum for shipping and said they couldn't be stacked. Every time I've had orders, I ordered a set of 4. They were all stacked. They're a pain in the butt to get separated. But
I don't know how they come, but see, I ran into the same thing. The shipping was outrageous, and she had messaged me about it, and I said, well, check area and see if there's anybody that does koi, and see if you can go in on an order with them, or even get find ones that somebody who does koi already has that they'll get rid of for cheap or whatever, which is what I initially asked, the koi person about, in my town, but she didn't have any, but she says, well, I need some and somebody else needs some, so I'll order some, for all of us. So then, I didn't have to pay shipping, which was nice.
Well, again, I love that.
You do a bulk order, you can oftentimes get free shipping.
Mhm.
And when it comes to shipping large, bulky items, which these are, that makes a
Yeah.
huge difference.
Well, see,
Yeah.
I love Holly's idea though, because it's about getting creative.
Yeah.
Cheryl does things with her Marine Club. If you
Mhm.
don't, and Seahorse Corner said, no koi stores in my area, no clubs, no nothing. Right. I feel you. Same with me. But Holly
That's
got creative and
crazy
went
because I
to,
have koi, but nothing else.
right.
There's a koi farm, but there's no like aquarium groups, no saltwater group, nothing.
Well, we got a couple questions, guys, and we got to. It's almost. I try to end this by 10. It's
Yeah.
supposed to only be an
Real
hour, and
quick.
we always go 2. Hang on. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, last time I ordered them, I ordered 2 tubs from Pentair Aquatics.
Yep.
And I waited several weeks, didn't hear anything. So I called them. And I was asking them what's happening with my koi tubs. Well, we just got some in today, but let me get your name and check your account. And they check. He comes back and goes, we're really sorry. Your shipment got delayed. They'll be going out today, and we're not going to charge you for shipping.
Nice. Hey,
There you go.
Love it.
Nice.
Okay, wait. All right, now I'm gonna cut you all off because we got to answer the questions from Arthur. Who thank you for joining us, Arthur. And you can read it, but he's been watching many videos and setting up a seahorse tank. Are all of the smaller size seahorses generally harder to keep? I've seen some only accept live food, for example. So first, I'll give you my brief answer, and then let Ray and Cheryl, who are the real experts, and Holly answer too. But my answer would be, if you're talking about the really tiny ones, the dwarf seahorses, those are the ones that will only take live foods. And I personally think they are much harder to keep. However, it depends on how much work you're willing to do. If you're willing to keep a live, culture going of Artemia and, feed them constantly. And the other thing about the smaller dwarf seahorses is, I personally think they're not as much fun. I'm not trying to tell anybody not to get dwarf seahorses, because if you want a smaller tank, that's the way to go. But you can't barely see them. You got to find them, and they're not as entertaining, in my opinion, as the larger species that'll swim up to you and like almost communicate with you, right? So the easiest species to keep, in my opinion, is Erectus. You do have to have a minimum 30-gallon tank for a pair. But if you're doing it for your girlfriend and you want her to be happy and see the seahorses, I would go with a pair of Erectus. But Cheryl, what do you think? And he asked like smaller size seahorses. Are there other smaller size seahorses?
There are other smaller size seahorses. However, at this time, they're not readily available in the United States. Hippocampus fuscus would be a perfect smaller seahorse. They typically run at full maturity about 3 to 4 inches. However, the probability of finding any in the United States is virtually non-existent anymore.
Right.
The other thing with the dwarf seahorses, basically you're treating them like they're perpetual fry. They're very small. They typically are very difficult to convert to frozen food. I only know of 2 people that have been able to do that, and both were very, very experienced long-term keepers. And the other thing is they typically don't have the longest longevity compared to some of the others. Erectus can get to 9 to 10 inches. They can get quite large, but it takes them several years to get to that point.
And they're just easier to keep. And Arthur said he has a mixed reef, so you've had great experience with saltwater. Seahorses are a totally different thing. And what I would say is, if you're more into a pretty tank, you want to go with the larger species, because with the smaller dwarf seahorses, they can go with almost nothing. Like you can't have, like, hydroids will kill them. You can't have other fish. You can't have anything. Whereas Erectus, you can't treat it like a saltwater tank. You can't have stinging corals, fast moving fish, but there's a lot more you can do with the tank if you get larger species. But Ray, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that question?
Well, I've never been a proponent of putting other fish in.
Right.
But then again, most of my years have been in a time period where we didn't know as much as we know now. So maybe if I was starting now, maybe I would get into that, just being honest with everybody. But
Yeah.
at this point, still, I've never bothered putting other fish in with them. Uh, I've never had much in the way of corals with them other than with the barberries. Um,
But would you
so
say that dwarfs are harder? He
dwarfs are a
asked
pain in
about,
the butt.
yeah, yes,
Now,
they are. Pain in
I
the
spent
butt.
a lot of
Yes.
years raising fry
Yeah.
for normal seahorses, but
Constantly.
2 years of raising dwarfs at the same time as I was doing fry, and I was ticked off. And
Right.
so I just packed in the dwarfs. It just
Yeah.
didn't interest me
Well,
anymore.
and I want to give
Yeah,
Holly a
they're
chance to
harder.
talk, but I want to say one more thing. Arthur, if you're wanting to do dwarfs, there's nothing wrong with that. Go to Seahorse Sources group, look up Lucy. She's an expert in dwarfs. I can connect you if you need it. But if you're just talking about smaller species, I think when you say smaller species, I'm thinking of combs, fuscus, as Cheryl pointed out, that are harder to find. Erectus can get big, but I mean, they're so cool. They're just so cool. And if you want help with setting up the tank, my personal advice would be to go back and watch on this channel, of course, Ask Seahorse Source Part 1, where Dan covers all the basics, like what you need, why you need it, all that stuff. I'll try to link it when we're done, but all you have to do is search Ask Seahorse Source on this channel. And also go join Seahorse Sources group on Facebook, because all of us are in that
No, I
group.
won't let him on.
Yes, I'm an admin too. I'll let you on. But we're out to help you with specific, like if you ask specific questions, like I've got this, and this, what size scammer do I need? Whatever. We can help you with that. I'm currently trying, and I have been for about a year now, I've set up a 40-gallon all-in-one, because you'll hear on this channel that we constantly talk about, you want a sump, you want all this equipment, you want all this and that, and people are like, whoa, that's way too much. So I put it on myself, and I've set up a 40-gallon all-in-one with 3 Erectus seahorses in it, and equipment just in the back of the all-in-one, no sump, to prove that it can be done. Because we get a little technical on this channel sometimes, because like Cheryl and Ray have been doing this since 500 BC. I'm just kidding, but they've been doing it a long time, and they have a lot of experience, and they're breeders. So it's different when someone just wants a pretty tank for their girlfriend versus we talk about all this sterility and all this, it gets a little overwhelming to somebody new, because we talk about so much details that it will help you in the future. But if you just want to set up a tank, come to the group, watch the starter channel, ask any questions here. We'll answer them. Don't get overwhelmed. I've kept many 30-gallon tanks with seahorses just fine, and it's great. They're wonderful.
And I would advise you, Arthur, to join a couple of the groups, both Dan Underwood's Seahorse Sources group,
Yep.
and also Elisa's Gabriel's Seahorse Savvy. They're
Yes.
both in the U.S. Both of them are very knowledgeable, but I think the most significant thing is in each group, you can pull up numerous papers and presentations, some of them video presentations, like for the Marine Breeder Initiative, that discuss how to keep seahorses, how to set up tanks, what they need, and complete with photographs and everything else. And I've had a lot of people come back when I've referred them to some of these. You go into where it says more, then you go into
Whoops.
files.
Hang on, I'm showing it while you're talking, Cheryl. So
Yeah.
you go on Facebook, you search Seahorse Sources group, then you go to, I don't think you can
Yeah.
see my arrow, but
More.
if you go to more,
Yeah.
and then files,
Yep.
there's all of this. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, just everything. And the
Yeah.
best one
Wait, go
is
back
the
up just a bit.
basics.
Go back up
Okay.
just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Right
uh-huh.
there, master file list. There's a huge number more.
Oh, it downloaded it. Whoops. Okay. Anyways, but you go to
Anyway.
more
It comes
files.
up with a huge number,
There's
a huge number
questions.
of articles, and this is state of the art and valuable information.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
also, Alicia on her website, Alicia's Seahorse Savvy, she has with each species that she works with, she has a complete description and essential information for taking care of them.
Here, I'll try to show that to you real quick. just for anybody who watches it later.
Good
Okay,
question.
so this is the website, Seahorse Algae, and it's actually, where is it, Cheryl? Is it in?
If
She
you
has a
click on
group
species, go to
on Facebook.
or Seahorse Farm.
Oh,
Okay, go to shop. Go to shipping. No.
the blog, maybe? Well, she does have a blog that has a lot of excellent articles, so you can
And
check
if you
that
click on
out.
the different species, that's where, like, if you click on, if you pull up
It'll
hippocampus,
be about dwarves, yeah, on here.
or it was about dwarfs or anything else, then she goes into the detail on these.
So, like, where though? I'm trying to
That's
show
what I'm
where.
trying to think. Wait. Oh, keep
I
going.
think there's a search box on here too, on her
Yeah,
site.
go back up
where
to
you
the
can
search
just
box.
Type them in.
I don't see a search box, guys. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is.
Be on see search at the bottom underneath Facebook. There you go.
Bingo.
So it pulls up the dwarves, eggs and enrichment. This is buying them though. I think the articles would be in the blog, but
yeah, you can find about them there
Click on
too.
the
But
fruit.
I'm of the same
Click on the fruit
opinion
lines.
because I've had dwarves before years ago, and they're hard. I would start. I agree.
No, they're cute
with
little babies. They're
everyone
not
else.
hardcore.
The erectus are going to be the most enjoyable and the easiest. I think of them as the goldfish, the marine tanks, because they have a lot of things that remind me, because I've kept freshwater too, and goldfish are really friendly. They'll recognize you when you come in the room. They're friendly, cool fish, but they're also very dirty. And seahorses are very dirty. It's just because of the way they eat. And so they need a lot of filtration. And,
you got to feed them more. We were just
starting to get it because he listens to the show from the other room and is used to hearing me talk about the seahorses. So a friend of mine gave me this really cool little 5-gallon tank. And I'm like, oh, this would be perfect for dwarves. And my husband says, what are you going to do? Put a 30-gallon sump on it?
Right. And actually that's what Dan said. Dan said if he set up a dwarf tank, he would do a 5 to 10 gallon tank with a 30-gallon sump, because it's just, but again, if you are interested, if you watch this channel and you're interested in doing dwarf seahorses, come ask your questions. We will answer them. We will still help you. It's just a lot more work. You have to do more water changes. You have to do more to keep up because you don't have the space and the equipment. So
it's like my nursery system.
Personality. The tiny little guys don't have as much personality, I think.
Right. Cheryl, what were you saying?
My nursery systems hold 40 gallons in terms of actual water for seahorse fry. The sump on my 40 gallons worth is a 39-gallon tank that I built, the sump. So that ought to tell you what happened, what kind of detritus you're getting into and what kind of work that you need to do. Versus my grow-out tank. Grow-out tanks range anywhere from 58 to 65 gallons. They also have 29 gallons.
Right. But again, I always worry that because we talk with these pros and because we have special guests on all the time, that we overwhelm people. If you're just trying to set up a cute seahorse tank for your girlfriend, we can easily help you set up a beautiful 30-gallon tank. No, I'm not saying you're wrong, Cheryl. You're not wrong.
No.
It's just I'm keeping a 40-gallon tank with 3 seahorses. It's great. It's cute. You can do a lot more with the larger species. And, if you're willing to go 30 gallons, I'm your girl because I can help you. But, I just worry that people get overwhelmed because we go into such detail about everything.
Hold on for just
go ahead, Cheryl, because I want to go on to the next question.
Trying to make is the little bitty guys need more water volume in many instances than the great big guys. And that's what I was saying.
Sorry.
Basically, I can have a huge number of larger seahorses in my 58 than I can do with fry in my nursery systems.
Absolutely. And I apologize. And you guys who come every week, you know, we all overtalk each other because we're all excited to talk seahorses. I apologize, Cheryl, for interrupting you. But Ray, I know you answered this in the comment section, but let's go ahead and do it for anybody watching. Can seahorses eat marine isopods? What was your answer, sir?
Well, some isopods are parasitic, and I wouldn't want them in the tank. And then, like, there are so many different isopods types, and depends on what you have. If you have some that are the size of amphipods, excuse me, large enough to for the seahorses to have an interest, and then maybe they'll eat those. But if they're small, like most copepods are, then seahorses aren't going to go after them unless they're pretty damn small seahorses.
I think
Yeah,
the problem is
my
being able to
erectus
see,
won't go after the amphipods. You know, like I shared earlier, Thing 2 saw one crawling on the bottom of his tank, and he freaked out. He's like, "What's that?"
Sorry, kids. Cheryl, what were you trying to say?
I was going to say there's a difference between isopods and amphipods, first of all.
Yeah.
And both can have species that are parasitic. And what you need to do if you're going to utilize either one of these food sources, you need to find out what species they are, do some research, and be sure that they are truly aquacultured, clean cultures. Because they can, like if it's a wild caught food, they have the potential, if they are not truly aquacultured, to bring in different pathogens.
Yes. Okay. And then Christine, I'm sorry I'm jumping around, guys. It's just getting late. It's 11 o'clock here now. So I'm sorry. Yeah, 10 o'clock here now. So got kids, got it. We love talking every week. I'm going to be on time from now on, but I'm going to give us like 15 more minutes. Okay. But Christine mentioned that northern Hippocampus erectus are a smaller seahorse, but don't they also require 30 gallons, Cheryl? I've not kept the northern species.
I would still go with a 30-gallon, not because of the size, but because of the food consumption and the detritus.
Gotcha. And Arthur said, you already have a large reef tank. I want to see it. Go post it. Tag me. But also you can't put them in there. Absolutely correct. Please don't put them in there. And you need a species only tank. Can you fit a 30-gallon is the big question. We can show you how to do dwarf seahorses too if you need to do a 5 to 10 gallon. But I'm just telling you, you're also going to have space for Artemia hatching. You're going to have to, or brine shrimp hatching. You're going to have a space for, you know,
so much
water changing constantly. Right. It ends up taking up space because you have to do more work.
Space.
If that's what you want to do, we'll help you do it. I mean, it'll be a cool surprise for your girlfriend. Let us know if that's what I'm sorry, I'm behind on the questions, guys, but if that's what you just want to do is the smaller tank with the smaller seahorses, we'll help you. But if you can fit a 30, you can make an amazing, beautiful tank. You don't have to have a sump with a pair of erectus. What?
Yeah, I was going to say, you can do a 30 to 40 for a pair of erectus and be okay. I always say, you know, for me, the bigger, the better. The bigger, the better the tank. It's easier and they enjoy it more. But yeah, if you have room for like a 30 to 40 gallon, you know, with enough filtration for them, you know, and a sump. And yeah, like Cheryl said, if you don't want the the labor and expense of raising fry, get 2 females. They'll go great together. They'll enjoy each other's company and be fun to watch. And
my dance
and being erectus,
hang out all the time together. And
being erectus,
one
of them may develop a pouch.
Right.
Are notorious.
Let's not scare him, Cheryl. Let's not scare him.
Get your males.
Males. I've had my males get along. My males
see my dog
with each other.
Now I'm going to say,
if there's not a female, what do you think?
I personally would not do 2 males because if you get even one, I mean, it could work. Seahorses have individual personalities, period. I have a bachelor's tank where I have, or had, sorry, 3 males that couldn't get along with other seahorses, period.
With
They were just
anyone.
buttholes. So they got stuck in a tank together and they fought all the time and whatever, but they could all, it was like a bachelor pad. I mean, seriously, they all could take it and they all just did what they wanted to do. But I personally would go with 2 females if you want to avoid.
Mhm.
Okay, bye, Ray. I would personally avoid, I would do 2 females if you want to avoid babies. But when they have babies, it's really awesome, even if you don't want to raise them. So I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get down in the questions because I see we're now talking about coral and I'm way behind. But if you ever want to even jump in video wise, Arthur, we'd be happy to walk you through it, or in the group, or ask more questions here. We'll get to them eventually or next week for sure. So yeah, go join the group. If you want to do a 30-gallon with a pair of seahorses, if you can fit that, I have literally been practicing with this 40-gallon, and I can help you with, like the filtration and the equipment, because the one thing with seahorses, because you have to feed them more than a reef. I was a reef keeper too first, and so I know the differences. And the biggest thing is you have to feed the seahorses differently and more often, and that causes more organics. So you have to compensate for that. The filtration is important, and a bigger skimmer. But I can teach you how to do that without a sump. I'm doing it right now. But okay, let's moving forward. I'm sorry we're jumping through these questions quickly, guys. Come earlier next week because I can't do it for 3 hours. But Recordia coral keepers, how do you place the mushrooms, the lighting, and the flow? 3 of the Recordias are bleaching. And then I believe Arthur actually answered him. But I'm curious if you guys have opinions on Recordia. Mushrooms don't usually need much lighter flow in the sand bed, right? If you have it up high, I would agree with everything Arthur just said. With my Recordia, I always had them low in the tank.
Yeah.
And I've even had them like almost not shadowed, but like where the light doesn't hit them all the time. They need light, but they don't need as much light. Agreed
But not
completely. I think we said this last week, Francis. I think I mentioned maybe it's the lighting that's bleaching them, because that's usually what does it. But sounds like Arthur's got you covered on the answers.
Yeah, I used to keep Recordia, and my problem with them was every time I turned around, there was another 3 or 4 more little Recordias in there.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good problem to have if you like them.
Yeah,
Right.
but the problem is when they take over your tank, and they're everywhere.
Well, Arthur, you're just gonna have to come be our. Arthur's gonna have to come be our reef specialist. What, Holly?
I'm just noticing Seahorse Corner. She says, dwarfs remind me of little lost souls. They don't notice anything outside of the tank. And that was kind of my point too. They're not as fun as the Erectus. They're not as much personality. An Erectus is like a dog in a fish tank. You can train them to eat out of a dish. They will recognize you when you come home. They'll be excited to see you. They just remind me of my goldfish, because I've had goldfish for years, and goldfish are friendly, kind of smart fish. And seahorses, the Erectus, are like that. They're smart, they're friendly, don't have much logic though. They get stuck.
Right.
Make sure you don't
understand what their idea of logic is.
Right, but we're not trying to talk you out of it. If that's what you want to do, we will help you do it. I personally have never even kept dwarf seahorses because I know that they're like fry, and I know what fry are like.
2 weeks. Mine lasted 2 weeks. Steph, they're so sensitive to everything.
Yeah, they're like fry.
Little piece of the wrong tiny microscopic thing can get them and wipe them all out in no time.
I actually made a video.
Hydroids, that's what got mine. And it came with them.
Yep. And I was going to say, I did make a video with Lucy's help, the person I told you to go talk to. And I will link that in the description when we're done. And let's see, there was one other thing I wanted to pull up. Oh, Francis sent me the isopod video. I think that we were just trying to figure out the species, or Cheryl, I know Ray had to go, but maybe you can tell us if they look like something that you would feed to seahorses.
I am not a person to ask about isopods.
Oh. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Weird looking thing.
I know that the seahorses eat this crap, but the creepy crawlies just woo,
It's kind
gets
of
to
a
me.
cool looking thing.
It is cool. It's cool.
You
So
might
I don't
want
know
to
that
keep
species.
those as pets, like sea monkeys or something.
Okay, well, Francis, what we're gonna do is I will make sure that Ray gets this video, and I'm so sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once. Are we trying to figure out the species, or if it's safe to feed them to seahorses if they're not parasitic? We'll get Dan and Ray on it, and I'll have an answer for you by next week.
Send me, Kelly, send me
Yes.
a copy of this also, because I'll run it by some of my hardcore reef keeper friends.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And
when I say
then
hardcore, I'm talking 500.
Oh, I know.
I've never seen one of those. I had the look that Thing 2 did when he saw the amphipod on his floor.
No, the amphipods are different.
Right, they are. But seahorses are individual.
Well, Thing
That's
2
why.
will
No,
never
wait.
see one.
I know, right? And I was gonna say, you're gonna have one person say, "Oh yeah, my seahorses eat amphipods," and the next person say they won't touch them. As I said, I've had seahorses that will gobble up. Hang on. I've had seahorses that will gobble up frozen brine shrimp, which cannot be their only food. Mm-hmm. Make that clear. But the ones I have now will not go. They will not eat frozen brine shrimp. Period. They'll eat live, but not frozen. It's not their diet. They don't even know what it is. So seahorses are individual. We give you the overall advice, and then if you have specific questions about specific seahorses, you come and ask. But Cheryl, go ahead, and then I'm going to read Arthur's question.
What I was going to say is what I want to do is find out what species those isopods are, and if they are parasitic. It's just like some of the other, even some copepods that we know haven't been able to kill neonatal seahorses. So we need to double check with exactly what they are before we respond.
Gotcha. And Francis was hoping that Arthur would join next week as a guest. We can have a week where we have some reef people in here and talk reef. We're totally down with that. We can do that. Yeah. I mean, I've kept a reef, I've kept macros, but I'm no pro. So if we need to pull some in, we can. If you want to talk reef, text me, comment that you want to have some reef people in. And Arthur did say, I do need a small 5-gallon ideally. If you don't have the space, then you're going to have to do dwarfs. You can't keep larger species.
I think if you do it that way, I think you have to do, like, if you're just keeping the 5 gallons and no sump with dwarfs, you're going to have to do a lot of major water changes, I believe.
Right? Actually, I think in the video, I'll link it when we're done. It's been a while since I made it, and I had Lucy helping me because I've never kept dwarfs. But I believe one of the options is if you're going to do a 5-gallon with dwarfs, it would be like you would need 2 5-gallons. And so like every week you would just switch them.
Switch the whole tank.
Or if you're trying to, and like I'm not trying to talk you out of it. We'll help you do dwarfs, I promise. But you can't have many things in it. Like it's going to have to be basically artificial because so many things can hurt them. You can still do a cute tank. It'll just be, more artificial stuff. There's really cool artificial stuff now, though, that can look real. It's just you can't have any coral with them. You can't have any other fish, nothing. It would have to be species only, as you said you already knew. And with the 5-gallon, I'm going to go watch my own video again, and I hope you do too, to try to remember what Lucy said.
I think it's just if you have all artificial, if you do like all plastic plants and decor, and you're doing major water changes.
Yeah.
But what is doable in a 5-gallon? I mean, I'm doing it with my hospital tank right now.
Yes.
It's labor intensive, but totally doable.
As long as you keep it more sterile than a regular tank would be.
And they have to have enough food supply, so you have to have freshly hatched and sterilized live.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Is the key is a lot of people will hatch their own brine shrimp that you have to with dwarfs. that doesn't actually take that much space. I mean, I did it literally with an inverted 2-liter bottle. That's what I hatched my Artemia in. I can show you how to do that. And it requires lighting. But the thing is, you have to keep it really clean, because a lot of times people will be doing great with dwarfs, and then they'll all of a sudden be, dying or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's because the hatchery, because Artemia are kind
Dirty.
of dirty themselves. And so if you're not constantly using peroxide and cleaning it, we can help you with all of this if that's what you want to do. And it sounds like you do. So seriously, if you want to jump in and literally ask questions one-on-one, we'll take your questions and we'll help. I'll see if Lucy can come too, because we haven't talked about dwarf seahorses in a while. So
We haven't. There was
let
a
us know.
guy that set up a self-sustaining.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Where it was automated and all that, but it cleaned its own water
Yep.
daily.
Yeah, the
I mean, it was
filtration.
a 100% water change every day, pretty much, I think, in that.
The filtration is one of the biggest problems,
Yeah.
because you've got something that's very tiny that will get sucked into most filtration, but still needs massive filtration. And that's where the problem comes in when you're using a 5-gallon.
Well, but Cheryl, I mean, let's be fair. If you're absolutely
5
right.
gallons is little.
But if you're willing to do the work, it's cool.
You're
willing to do water
that
changes.
in my hospital tank every day. I change out 5 gallons of water.
Exactly.
So if I was keeping dwarfs, I guess I could do that.
A dear friend of mine who lives in the Netherlands raised dwarf seahorses for over 15 years. He finally got out of it because he and his significant other, they were retiring and they wanted to travel.
Yes, I was going to say they wanted to get away.
They wanted to escape. But he actually was the one that was the master at raising Moena salina live pods for all his dwarfs.
For the dwarfs.
And he had so many setups at one point. He had a lot of blue lights in there. Well, one night, in the middle of the night, somebody's banging on his door, and he opens the front door, and it's a whole bunch of cops. They thought he was growing pot.
Oh, jeez. Love it.
He ended up helping a couple of the cops set up dwarf seahorse tanks and got them started after all of this.
Nice. And Seahorse Corner said, I will link that we actually had the automated system. I feel terrible. I can't remember his name right now. It's the wine. I blame the wine, but I can't remember his name. But we did have him on as a special guest and did a video with him. So I will link that when we're done.
Complete directions. I remember written directions. He did a whole thing on that.
That's also in Seahorse Sources group. Yep, absolutely. Francis said the clove oil procedures worked on the corals. Yay. All right, so we'll talk about that next week. Hopefully you'll be able to join, Francis. I hope you do start to feel better. And yeah, I think I got through everything. If I missed your question, I really apologize. Come back next week and we'll answer it. We're here every week. I'm going to try not to be late anymore. And Francis, quit being late. Let's blame you. Just kidding. And again, if you're absolutely new to seahorses and you are looking at the larger species, go watch Ask Seahorse Source Part 1. Search it on my channel. It's great. Dan covers everything. There's videos in here that cover cycling. Just search the words because I always put tags on the videos. So if you search it, you'll find it. We're just happy to have you guys all join us. And Arthur, if you want to come talk reef, message me. We'll get you in here. And okay, anything else, guys? Because I am going to have to end it. I'm so sorry. It's like 10:20 here. I got kids. I got to get to sleep because they're teenagers.
I want the automatic Erectus tank too.
Yeah,
oh, man. I'm telling you.
I agree with Heather. I want the automatic Erectus tank.
Right. But I mean,
an automatic hospital tank. And
absolutely. But like someone who does want to keep dwarf seahorses, anything's possible. We're just, well, I shouldn't speak for other people. I'm just lazy. So we want automatic tanks. We don't want to do water changes every day. We don't want to hatch brine shrimp every day. If you're willing to do that, then
it's like raising
you can do it.
Yeah, it's totally doable. I just see it's labor intensive.
Okay, real quick.
Go ahead.
We're talking about a small tank for dwarf seahorses. A dear friend of mine who was a very long-term keeper. She ended up actually moving up into Seattle area up in Washington. She set up a 40-gallon breeder with a sump, laced it with pods and different varieties, including some small amphipods and stuff. It grew out shrimp, mice and shrimp to add to the tank. Spent months preparing this for her several hundred dwarf seahorses.
It's a lot.
But the
They're
biggest
tiny,
difference with this system is where most people get 6 to 8 dwarf babies in a brood, hers were producing 18 plus in a brood.
Oh, wow.
And that, I'm give you 100% certainty, that had to do with the nutritional value of the way she set up that tank.
Yep.
Because she was not relying on brine shrimp. She was relying on their native foods.
And that's a great point, Cheryl. I'm glad you brought it up. If you want to be successful with this dwarf tank for your girlfriend, because you don't want her to be sad if it doesn't go well, maybe hit Cheryl up on the side and ask some more questions about, setting it up prior with isopods and everything she just described. Very good.
But he has room for a 5-gallon, not a 40.
I know.
He doesn't have room for 40.
Well, wait. But he's not going to buy 100.
That's doable.
Yes, it absolutely is.
I think so. I think just labor intensive more because it's going to be work keeping their water clean enough.
Depends on
no. In the video,
but however you do it, it'll work.
In the video that Lucy and I made, she talks about she prefers a smaller tank with dwarfs because then with the food,
the
you don't have to put as much food in. They need
the food density. It's like, to me, it's totally like raising fry.
Yeah,
it is.
It sounds like it because they're the same size. So you need enough food density, but that makes the challenge of it's hard to keep the water clean enough.
Right. And imagine yourself having
meet those two challenges, and however you figure out how to do that will work.
Imagine
having water clean, keep enough clean food.
Yeah, imagine having a 5-gallon fry tank with the fry reproducing every few weeks.
Cheryl, please try to scare people.
But you don't have to separate them, though. In a dwarf tank, the fry live with the parents. You don't have to separate them.
What I'm saying
like you do with the erectus.
The big seahorse equivalent is to having a whole boatload of 30 plus fry. They're already reproducing.
Right. So basically, if you get dwarf seahorses and you want to keep them in a 5-gallon tank, get 2 females. Okay. That's it. Okay, you guys, I'm going to have to call it for tonight. Thank you so much to everybody who came and chatted with us. We will be back next week. I will announce soon when Ask Seahorse Source Part 3, which we will concentrate more on fry and probiotics and hydrogen peroxide and those detailed topics. I will announce. We'll discuss it at Ask Seahorse Part 3. But thank you, Holly and Cheryl and Ray, who joined me tonight. If you ever want to come into the actual video, all you have to do is message any of us. We can give you the link. And Arthur, if you ever want to come chat about reef tanks, or if you're watching later and you want us to have a reef special with some reef people come in and talk reefs, just let us know. We can always do that. But I'm going to say goodnight. You guys say goodnight. Cheryl's trying to talk again. We could talk all night about seahorses, I know. Okay. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you next week. Have a good Wine Wednesday and future.